For joining us today. I'm Cheryl Carter, Co-Executive Director with Democracy North Carolina. Today, you're going to hear from our partners about the efforts to make the ballot accessible to all North Carolinians, from language and disability voter access to our state hotline and more. This work has never been more important. And we are so excited. We have been planning and working with our advocates and partners for this first day of early voting. We wanted to ensure that you had the days, the sites, and the hours so that you can cast your ballot in any precinct or polling location in your county during the 17 days of early voting. So we encourage you to take advantage because you can register and vote on the same day. For more information, please visit our site, ncvoter.org. I want to tell you a little story just this week about a voter who called me, and he was so upset because he had missed the voter registration deadline. But imagine his elation and surprise when I told him all was not lost, because he could take advantage of the 17 days of early voting where he could register and vote. That's why it's so important that we let our friends, our family, and neighbors know, because many people do not know this. And this is a gentleman that grew up in North Carolina and did not know. So please make sure you're spreading the word. And I do want to pay homage to my predecessors here at Democracy North Carolina and our coalition partners who were part of the fight to ensure that same day registration became a reality. And now, because of their work and because of all that you've done, thousands of North Carolinians every election cycle are able to vote or actually register and vote on the same day. And that is so awesome. Did you know that during the 2022 primary, nearly 600,000 North Carolinians voted prior to Election Day, with a turnout rate of 8%. That's nearly twice what we saw in the 2018 primary. And if you go out today, you're going to see our friends and our volunteers as vote protectors as part of our Democracy North Carolina Vote Protector Program. They're going to be at polling locations all across the state, several hundreds at 22 locations across the state just today. But we are so excited because we have trained thousands to help us throughout this period and on Election Day. They're going to be looking out for long lines, for any accessibility issues, and other barriers to the ballot. So with that, I want to pass it to one of my friends and colleagues at the Southern Coalition for Social Justice, Mitchell Brown.
Thank you, Cheryl. As Cheryl noted, my name is Mitchell Brown. I'm counsel at the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. And I want to talk a little bit about the election protection hotline that we are helping run with DMNC and our other partner organizations. Our North Carolina nonpartisan hotline is up and running, and we are helping voters navigate the voting process, whether that is helping them find their closest early voting site or helping them understand whether they are registered to vote. The North Carolina hotline is a part of a large nonpartisan voter protection coalition, the largest in the nation, which is run by the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law. The national hotline is made up of more than 100 local, state, and national partners and is working in 50 states and DC. The North Carolina Election Protection Hotline, and our number is 888 Our Vote, has trained over 400 volunteers who answered over 14,000 calls during the 2020 general election. And since Monday, when the hotline really started kicking, we've had almost over 200 calls helping voters make sure that they are able to navigate the election process. We have volunteers working the hotline every day until the polls are closed, and voters are able to call in to the hotline if you see issues, or if you are a vote protector and you see issues, they're able to call in and have a volunteer help them through the process and obtain answers to the questions if you have them. And for voters and other folks who may want to utilize the hotline, if you call us after the polling places are closed for the day, you can still leave a voicemail and we will be able to return your call the following day, again, to make sure that you have answers to your questions. We look forward to a great election season, and we look forward to helping voters successfully cast their ballots. And if you see issues around voter intimidation or issues with voting in general, please call the hotline. Again, our number is 888-OUR-VOTE, and we look forward to helping you. With that, I'll pass it to my colleagues, Kat Robles and Whitley Carpenter.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Kat Robles. I'm the Voting Rights Counsel and Litigation Manager at Forward Justice. Forward Justice is a law, policy, and strategy center based in North Carolina that is dedicated to advancing racial, social, and economic justice in the South. We are here today to tell you about a historic win in this state that is being implemented for the very first time in this election cycle. In November 2019, we filed a lawsuit alleging that North Carolina's practice of disenfranchising individuals who had been convicted of a felony, but who are now living in our community while on probation, parole, or post-release is unconstitutional. In March 2022, the Superior Court ruled in our favor, which meant that beginning on July 27th of this year, individuals who are on community supervision for a felony conviction can register and vote for the first time in North Carolina. The State Board of Elections has now changed all of its forms to say that as long as you are not currently in jail or prison for a felony conviction, you can vote. And I will pass it to Whitley.
Thank you, Kat. Hey, everyone. My name is Whitley Carpenter, and I am the Senior Criminal Justice Counsel at Forward Justice. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the implementation of this court ruling that Kat mentioned. So as of July 27th, we launched our Freedom Summer campaign in partnership with the ACLU of North Carolina, Emancipate North Carolina, the North Carolina Second Chance Alliance, Advance North Carolina, the North Carolina Justice Center, and the North Carolina Community Bail Fund of Durham. And with the Freedom Summer campaign, we have been finding ways to inform people and let people know that their voting rights have been restored and that they're eligible to register and vote in North Carolina. So we've been hosting voter registration community events across the state to ensure that those who are directly impacted by this historic victory are able to register and vote during this critical time in our democracy. We have launched a landing page, and you can find that at unlockourvotenc.org. And there you can find more details about the litigation that Kat mentioned, as well as links to register to vote and, links to the State Board of Elections website, as well as updates on upcoming events for our Freedom Summer campaign. We've also been implementing some targeted outreach to inform people of their right to vote. And our team has made more than 32,000 dials to individuals to inform them of this new eligibility for people who are on community supervision to vote. And we have sent text to more than 28,000 people twice since July 27th to inform them of their ability to register and vote. We have a hotline as well for any North Carolina community members who have had interactions with the criminal legal system and may have a question about their right to vote. You can call our dedicated Unlock Our Vote hotline, and that's 877-800-8683. You can email us at legal@forwardjustice.org. Or we have a third option. You can complete the contact us form on our dedicated website, which is, again, unlockourvotenc.org. Thanks. And I will pass to Chavi from the North Carolina Asian Americans Together. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Whitley. I'm Chevy Canario, Executive Director of North Carolina Asian Americans Together, and Kat. We're the only statewide organization dedicated to increasing civic engagement in the Pan-Asian communities across North Carolina. Asian Americans are the fastest growing racial group in the state, with a population growth that has surpassed general statewide growth. A critical part of our organization's work is ensuring that Asian American voters are able to fairly cast their votes. Since 2016, our efforts to do so have included providing translated voting materials in Asian languages, And since 2020, we have run our multilingual election protection hotline, which this year will offer support in over 20 different Asian languages. A new poll released by our organization today in conjunction with UC San Diego's U.S. Immigration Policy Center shows that Asian Americans in North Carolina are more motivated to vote this year than in past elections. However, language barriers discourage too many voters from casting their ballots. 78% of Asian American adults in North Carolina speak a language other than English at home, and 32% have limited English proficiency. Our poll also showed that for those who speak a language other than English at home, a full 80% report never having received election materials in their native language. Our election protection hotline offers language assistance in the 5 most commonly spoken languages in the state: Hindi, Chinese, Urdu, Korean, and Vietnamese, along with several Southeast Asian, South Asian, and Filipino languages, allowing us to offer over 20 different language options. The calls we've received so far have mostly pertained to how to vote by mail, a great option for LEP voters, assurance that LEP voters can get assistance inside the polling place from a family member or other person of their choice besides their employer or union agent, and questions about where to vote early. As our population grows, it is even more critical for Asian American voters to have a voice at the ballot box. Our Asian language voter protection hotline can be reached by calling 919-591-2442 or by calling the state election protection hotline and requesting assistance in an Asian language. Thank you. And I will now pass it to Cass from Disability Rights, North Carolina.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to speak briefly about the importance of the disability vote. People with disabilities have enormous voting power. 1 in 4 people eligible to vote has a disability, and yet disabled people don't vote at the same rate as people without disabilities because of barriers to voting. The distinction is staggering. If people with disabilities voted at the same rate as people without disabilities, there would be 2.35 million more voters in this country. Disability Rights North Carolina's nonpartisan across the Access the Vote NC campaign during this election cycle includes monitoring curbside voting in 25 counties every day during early voting and on election day to make sure that people with disabilities can vote safely, privately, and without impediments. We are also inviting anyone who votes to participate in our project, Ask How You Can Help People with Disabilities Vote, and I'll put that link in the chat in a minute. This project allows all voters to ensure access for disabled people in 3 easy steps. The first one is go vote. The second is, while at the polling place, ask a poll worker if the accessible voting machine is plugged in and working. And then use the QR code associated with this project to fill out a very short Google Doc to report any findings. We are monitoring that Google Doc in real time, and we respond immediately where issues are reported. We also have a hotline, which is 888-WE-VOTE2, the number 2. And this, so people can call about that at the hotline. They can also use it to phone in any concern about disability access that we also respond to in real time. We also use the courts to ensure disabled people can access the vote. This summer, a federal judge agreed that a North Carolina law limiting voting assistance violates the Voting Rights Act. This means that this election, people with disabilities who live in congregate settings such as nursing homes, assisted living, group homes, hospitals, can get assistance from facility staff or anyone else they choose, rather than having to rely on specified and sometimes inaccessible assistance. In addition, the ruling also protects the right to assistance for voters with disabilities who don't live in congregate settings, but who need assistance with absentee voting by mail. Last year, we secured another important ruling for disabled voters. In a lawsuit we filed in coalition with disability rights advocates, the North Carolina Council for the Blind, the Governor Moorhead School Alumni Association, and several NC voters with disabilities, a federal judge order the NC Board of Elections to take immediate steps to ensure blind voters in North Carolina can vote independently by using the same accessible online voting system that's offered to military and overseas voters. Check out our website at disabilityrightsnc.org for more details about our accessible voting work. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tyler Day, Policy and Civic Engagement Manager for Common Cause. Thank you.
Thanks, and good morning. My name is Tyler Day, again, Policy and Civic Engagement Manager at Common Cause, North Carolina. As early voting begins, we're preparing for a major U.S. Supreme Court case to be heard this December. The name of the case is Moore v. Harper. This case stems from an earlier redistricting lawsuit this year over North Carolina's congressional maps. The North Carolina State Legislature enacted congressional voting districts last November, which, as drawn, would have given a significant and unfair advantage to one political party over another. Common Cause and the Southern Coalition for Social Justice sued, arguing that the districts weren't drawn fairly and that this violated North Carolina voters' civil rights and thus violated the North Carolina Constitution. The case was eventually appealed to the North Carolina Supreme Court, which ruled that the manipulation of voting districts to favor one political party over another violates multiple clauses of the North Carolina Constitution. They acknowledged that the congressional and state legislative maps drawn last year by the General Assembly purposefully diluted the voting power of voters based on party affiliation. The North Carolina State Supreme Court appointed special masters to draw the congressional districts which are in place today. Ultimately, the State Supreme Court acted as a check on the legislative branch. Now, the North Carolina State Legislature has appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, arguing that the North Carolina state courts had no authority to rule against them. The state legislature is arguing that they should have all the power when it comes to federal elections. This argument clearly violates our system of checks and balances. We have three co-equal branches of government: a legislative branch to make the law, a judicial branch to review the law, and an executive branch to execute the law. All three branches have crucial functions to make our democracy work. Both Republicans and Democrats have held power within our state legislature, and both Republicans and Democrats have abused that power to draw voting districts to favor their party. This is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. It's an issue that affects everyone. All of us are negatively affected when a single branch of government holds too much power. To learn more about Moore v. Harper, or to come to one of our events being held around the state, you can go to scsj.org/tour. Again, that's scsj.org/tour. The good news is that the 2022 elections are now underway, and we, the voters, have the power. There are so many critical races this year. North Carolina will elect a new U.S. Senator for the first time in 8 years. We will vote in elections for the U.S. House of Representatives among North Carolina's 14 congressional districts. There are also important races for the North Carolina Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. These justices will determine how North Carolina laws are interpreted for years to come. Legislators in the North Carolina State House and State Senate are also up for election this year. The state legislature will decide if we expand Medicaid, how much teachers are paid, how much we pay in gasoline tax, and the list goes on and on. Many counties will also have sheriff, district attorney races, and other local races. Your vote is your power. If you want a say in the future of North Carolina and this country, vote and tell your friends to vote too. If you would like information about the candidates to help you decide who you want to vote for, you can check out our nonpartisan voter guide at ncvoterguide.org. Again, that's ncvoterguide.org. The guide will show what races are on your ballot, which candidates are running in your districts, and features statements from candidates explaining what their priorities are. Our friends at the League of Women Voters have also produced a nonpartisan voter guide available at vote411.org. Again, that's vote411.org. Use these resources, learn about the candidates, and go out and make your voice heard. And with that, I will turn it over to Melissa Price-Crom, Director of North Carolina Voters for Clean Elections.
Hi, y'all. Thank you for that introduction, Tyler. Now, we know North Carolinians will disagree on everything from college basketball to which part of the state has the best barbecue. But one thing we've always come together around is that our election process should be respected. Now, it's safe to say that we can all agree that this election year has been intense. There's much at stake. But we should be able to agree that in our democracy, the voters are the most important voice. Our shared responsibility to one another as Americans is to make sure that every vote is counted and that every voice is heard. We trust our independent election officials to make sure that happens. We should give them the time and respect they need to do their job without interference. We should also be giving voters the ability to vote without disinformation and intimidation. Unfortunately, a growing number of conspiracy theorists, even elected officials and public figures in North Carolina and beyond, have decided that their politics are more important than our democracy. Last election, the country was left shell-shocked after discovering the lengths to which some went to overturn the presidential election results. Now, they claimed without evidence that the election had been unfair. Now, these claims have been debunked several times over by government officials, judges, elected officials from both parties. In the years since, the big lie hasn't faded into obscurity. On the contrary, it's taken root and grown among a group of election-denying extremists looking to gain power by hook or crook. Voters will continue to see this big lie election disinformation. Don't fall for it. If you see something, say something. If you see election disinformation, especially online election disinformation, please report it to North Carolina's election disinformation tip line at demnc.co/tipline. Again, that is demnc.co/tipline. Now, we've got through election disinformation efforts before, and we'll do it again. We'll do it by focusing on the principles that every North Carolinian holds dear: freedom, truth, and justice. Now, this election, let's choose freedom over fear, proof over accusations, country over party, and people over politics. Thank you, and I'm handing it back to Cheryl.
Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today and to all of our great speakers. Now we just want everyone to get out, vote early, and cast your ballot. And with that, we'll take any questions that you have. Again, thank you. And remember,
I have a question.
Yes,
Hi,
Eileen.
I'm just wondering if for Spanish speakers who are getting misinformation about the elections, or people who don't speak the language, what would be a good place to reach, or what are some of the things or the processes that they need to go through to put it out there? But yeah, Spanish speakers, people who don't speak English.
Eileen, can you repeat that question one more time?
Yeah, of course. For bilingual people or people who don't speak the language English, if they are exposed to misinformation, disinformation, where would they basically either put it out there or inform officials or even get the right information? Do we have any of these resources on, voting disinformation for Spanish speakers? I'm looking at the chat. Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to let you know that you can call our hotline and those people will be routed to the appropriate language. Also, you can go to ncvoter.org. And either one of those places will be able to support the person and get them the information that they need.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Right, I just want to remind you that I vote, you vote, and we all vote. And let's go make it a great first day of early voting. Thank you.